we've obviously played some playtest games, and there's a beautiful way that you take, as we said, expectations. That you take something so familiar and then make it unfamiliar, and how that works with the genre of horror. It is horror, horror being matter out of place. Dirt, soil in the garden is dirt in the house. Blood and body bits are supposed to be inside the body. The dead people are supposed to be under the ground and keep still. All of those, your matter out place being horror. I think this just works so well. It's from the ground up built to be to evoke horror in its bones, right? And it's taking something so familiar and making it unfamiliar. This is genius.
Rules out of place.
yeah. Rules out of place equals horror. I was gonna ask you about why. Actually, no, it's still relevant. We've sort of answered it, but for you personally, why 5e though? Was there anything else about that how did you arrive at using 5e as opposed to just making a new game?
I've been working on a horror game that uses this core set of mechanics since the advent of the D20 system, and whenever that was, late 1999, early 2000. When those rules were released, I immediately saw that there was a possibility there to take just a shared language that was just so much more widely understood than any other rule set, and mess with it and do kind of ordinary people struggling with it. The very lowest levels of D&D already kind of give that experience when you're wandering through a dungeon. You don't have that many hit points, and you don't have many cool powers, and you don't know if there's an orc around the next corner that's going to mess you up. You can kind of get that energy in there, and I remember that from my early games in the earlier editions of the game. That experience really stayed with me, but kind of the possibility of using that language in this way has been something that I've been toying with for a very long time. I made some attempts to do a version of this in the 2000s, which were they were good. I don't think they were great. I don't think the system really lent itself as well then as the new 5e version of the kind of D&D rule set does, because I think the 5e set is just beautifully balanced between abstraction and having a really concrete structure. So it's got just enough there that you can really lean on it and you can rely on it, but it also just leaves a lot of open space. So people who are familiar with 5e are very accustomed to taking that core set of mechanics and just riffing on them. You only need to watch pretty much any 5e live stream and you can see people just taking that core mechanic and then riffing on it and building on it in all kinds of different ways. And some people really like to get into the nitty-gritty of the rules and work out all their 5-foot steps and so on. But there's a real freedom, I think, that's sitting there in 5e that people are already tapping into. So I'm sitting on that opportunity to take some freedom, and I'm using that freedom kind of against expectations as much as I can, trying to turn people turn what they're trying to do against themselves so that they end up in this kind of horror experience, whether they like it or not.